appearance on Dion's Daily Dose does not imply endorsement from or by any candidate or guest. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by Dion Bergeron or Dion's Daily Dose are his own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of any guest. Material and information presented is for general information purposes only. The Dion's Daily Dose name in all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owners, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose.
AARP and the following.
Here we go. Good timing. Welcome, everyone.
Live from Indianapolis, the 2024 Indiana Republican Gubernatorial Primary Debate, sponsored by the Indiana Debate Commission.
Who's your favorite going in this?
Crouch.
Crouch?
Crouch. I don't like Braun.
Fair.
Who's your
Not a
favorite?
huge Braun fan either. Probably. I like Reitenour.
Good evening and welcome to the
realistic
Indiana Debate
chances.
Commission's 2024 primary debate for governor. Broadcast live from Hine Hall Auditorium on the campus of IUPUI. This event is the final formal debate of the 2024 primary season, the final opportunity for Hoosier voters to hear from the Republicans vying to succeed Governor Eric Holcomb, who is barred by Indiana's Constitution from seeking a third consecutive term.
Thank God.
Of course, the winner of the May 7 Republican gubernatorial primary will advance to November's general election. I am your moderator, John Schwantes, the host of WFYI Public Media's Indiana Lawmakers Program, the state's longest running public affairs show. This debate is made possible by the generosity of our major underwriters, AARP Indiana, the Indiana Broadcasters Association, and the Indiana State Bar Association, as well as additional support from the Indiana Coalition for Open Government, the Indiana League of Women Voters of Indiana, the Hoosier State Press Association Foundation, and Comcast. The Indiana Debate Commission is dedicated to putting voters first. Accordingly, we invited members of the public to submit questions about the issues of greatest concern to them.
Okay.
More than 120 people submitted nearly 200 questions.
Wow.
And that input
That's good.
formed the basis of the questions that I will pose this evening. None of the questions has been shared with the candidates or their campaign staffs.
Okay, good.
The order of the candidates' introductions and their positions on stage were determined by drawing. Enough housekeeping. Now, without further delay, let's meet the participants. Brad Chambers of Indianapolis, founder and CEO of Buckingham Companies, a real estate investment firm, and former head of the Indiana Economic Development Corporation under Governor Holcomb. Suzanne Crouch of Evansville, Indiana's 52nd Lieutenant Governor, and a former state auditor, state representative, and county commissioner. Eric Doden of Fort Wayne, founding partner of Domo Development Company and Domo Ventures, a private equity firm, and former president of the Indiana Economic Development Corporation under Governor Mike Pence. Curtis Hill of Elkhart, former Indiana Attorney General and former four-term Elkhart County prosecutor. And Jamie Reitenour of Indianapolis, a former compliance officer, athletic director, and executive secretary who is now a stay-at-home mother of 5.
Okay.
And you'll notice there are 5 lecterns on stage instead of 6 as we had hoped. U.S. Senator Mike Braun, who of course is also seeking the Republican nomination for governor, was unable to attend this evening. He was called back to Washington for an important Senate vote on a foreign aid package. So he unfortunately could not join us this evening.
Betty votes for it.
The candidates have agreed to
Yeah,
a
I bet he
rules,
does.
which includes a prohibition
I don't know.
on prompts and prepared notes.
We'll see.
This evening's debate will feature a mix of
I'm just
yes or
usually
no
disappointed by
questions answerable by a show of hands,
That's all there is to it.
and a more traditional set of open-ended questions of various lengths. And
With or without his vote,
I
the
will
bill
not
is probably going to
hesitate
pass.
Yeah,
to cut off candidates who fail to abide by the stated time limits. And I'll take it a step further. I will try to gently nudge people back on path if they're addressing the question and sort of stray from the point of the question. So
yeah.
I'll do it with a smile on my face and with kindness in my heart. But
Good for
I'll
him.
try to address the matters at hand that
Yeah.
voters care about most.
That's right.
All right. Now, we have dispensed with all of the housekeeping I think we need to do tonight. Let's get to the questions. This first round of questions will be open-ended, and I will give you a time limit for each one. The candidate who receives the first question will have 1 minute to answer that question. The other candidates generally will have a shorter period of time that I will specify, and you can use that to agree, disagree, or add any other thoughts that you would like. So according to the drawing, our first question will go to Mr. Chambers, and he will have 1 minute to respond.
Okay.
A 2024 study by Forbes Advisor ranked Indiana the second best state in the nation in which to start a business, citing the state's low $100 registration fee, state funding for small business startups, a high business survival rate, a reasonable cost of living, and a high percentage of working age residents. What specifically would you do to nudge us from number 2 to number 1? Again, you have a minute.
Okay, that's a good
Thanks,
question.
John. Thanks for being here tonight. Appreciate the audience and this opportunity to speak to voters. Listen, entrepreneurship is extremely important. I am one. I started a company from nothing in 1984, from zero. I know the journey. I know how difficult the journey is to start a business, to grow a business, and keep a business going for 40 years. I'm a career job creator, a career problem solver. And so while I'm pleased to see that Indiana's ranked number 2 for small and medium-sized businesses, there's more to do. And I started to do that as Secretary of Commerce for the state of Indiana, working for my $1 a year as an appointed position. We need to make sure more capital is available to innovators and entrepreneurs. We need to lean into the technology sector. We formed a website called Connect IND for high school students and for college students if they wanted to learn about entrepreneurship. We need to start earlier with education and educating our high schoolers about the opportunities to work for yourself in this state. We have terrific entrepreneurs. Colonel Eli Lilly is one of them. I'm sorry.
I'm afraid we're out
It's
of
fine,
time.
John. Thank you. Yeah.
Colonel would appreciate you ending on
That's right.
Let's go then to each of you. You'll have 30 seconds to
He's really
offer
nervous.
a response to much the same question. How can we take an already strong economic set of circumstances here in Indiana and take it to the next level? Curtis Hill.
Well, the way that we take an already strong state and take it to the next level is very simple. We get government out of the way. We need to cut regulations and make sure that we allow our entrepreneurs to work and to move forward. We need to provide tax incentives to lower taxes to make sure that the economy is strong and robust. But it's really a matter of making sure that government is limited in its capacity to stay in the way of business as it's growing and developing.
Worse.
Yeah.
Good. Mr. Doughton, same question to you.
Well, this is at the heart and soul of our Indiana Main Street initiative. For 50 years, we've ignored our small towns and the 2.5 million people that live there. And as we begin to restore communities across the state with the help of local leaders in the private sector, this will lead to tremendous small business growth and opportunities. We've already seen this happen in every community that we begin to restore, and this is why we're excited about what we're doing with our Indiana Main Street initiative and just restoring small towns.
Ms. Crouch.
As a state representative, auditor of state, and lieutenant governor, I played a key role in turning Indiana around. I want to continue that by eliminating the state income tax. Not only will we put $2,000 back in the pockets of average Hoosiers, but according to the National Federation of Independent Businesses, the income tax is the single most tax that could help if we could eliminate it, small business growth. So that is what I want to do. Put money in your pocket, help small businesses grow, and attract people to Indiana when we become a no income tax state.
Okay.
And Ms. Reitenour.
Well, I was asked a similar question this morning in an interview. I was asked, how do you keep the good times rolling? And my answer was, I've been on the ground for 2.5 years, and the Hoosiers are not telling me that the good times are rolling. Right now, we've got over 100,000 jobs that cannot be placed. We have small businesses that are looking for employees. And so what I say is that every senior that graduates in the state of Indiana should be doing an apprenticeship before they graduate. We want to make sure that our seniors, our next generation, are taken care of. That's not easy to do in a state where education is failing, but Indiana goodness will bring that to Hoosiers.
Very good.
Thanks.
We'll go on to another question, and we will return to the order. I think I may have inadvertently botched the order in which you were before. So
How do we rebut if we want to have a tag on or a rebuttal?
I'll tell you what, because I'm a kind, generous person, and I'm going to look at you to keep you on track with this aforementioned smile. 15 seconds. Go ahead.
No, I'm not asking. I'm just asking the process by which. I don't have a rebuttal right now, but in the future, I'm
All right.
sure to have a rebuttal.
All right. Now you have that ace in the hole. Very good.
So,
All right.
Will you call me or do I raise my hand?
Well, it's not a classroom, but a raising of the hand would be good. And certainly if somebody mentions you or calls you out on a policy, I will make sure that you are given the time to talk to that. All right. So the order has been restored, and we will continue now with a question to Mr. Hill.
Okay.
Some businesses have voiced concerns that Indiana's social policies in areas such as abortion and LGBTQ rights might hurt our convention business and our ability to attract and retain talent needed to grow Indiana's economy. How do you respond to these concerns? And you have a minute to do that.
Well, I think we need to understand what kind of a state we live in. We are a state that's about families. We want to make sure that our families are at the center of what we do here in the state. Economic development and economic growth is a wonderful opportunity for us, but not at the cost of who we are as Hoosiers. We were the first state to have a firm pro-life position, banning abortion. Businesses know when they come into this state, that's what to expect. So we don't change who we are to be attractive to the outside world. We need to maintain our standards. We need to be the type of state that's welcoming to
really
families,
too.
welcoming to businesses,
Yeah.
and doing the best job that we can to move our agenda forward.
And we will continue with additional responses from the remainder of the candidates here. 30 seconds apiece. We'll go to Mr. Doden. Your response about social policies and any possible impact they might have on our economic development.
Well, I think, I've made this clear. I'm ardently pro-life. I think what people are looking for are leaders of conviction. And I'm ardently pro-life.
You just say he's not pro-life?
I think it's also a religious issue. But
Oh,
we're also
Hardin,
incorporating
okay.
Things like zero-cost adoption, where you have an adoption fund that will help parents not only pay for adoption, but the aftercare. And, these are policies. If you look at our policies, that you should look at our website at dougforindiana.com. We have them all in writing. And they've all been approved by people like you. These are policies that everyone can agree with and get behind.
Ms. Crouch?
Yeah, they're not even answering.
We are a culturally conservative state, but one of the things we have to do a better job of is telling the authentic story of Indiana. I head up the Indiana Destination Development Corporation, and while our neighboring states have spent anywhere from $20 to $60 million a year telling their story, we have historically spent $2 million. We now have additional resources to tell that authentic story of Indiana.
Ms. Reitenour.
Okay.
Indiana, the Conservative Party has done a poor job of talking about the reality that we're in a moral crisis in our country right now.
Okay.
We need to support our families. We all know that the reason why we are where we are right now is because there is a crisis in the family. The family is broken. The state of Indiana is for life. We believe that you reap what you sow. And so we want to be a state that encourages that in all ways. It's not just from the womb to the tomb. It's in education with our children. It's in our small businesses. We are a state that stands for life, and we are very proud to be that.
That was a good
Mr.
answer.
Chambers.
I believe we need to keep families at the center of our everyday lives. I believe we need to keep education at the center of our everyday lives. I believe we need to continue to build on quality of life for all Hoosiers, for our kids and our grandkids to build their lives in Indiana. And I believe we need to have economic opportunity for everybody to build their lives in Indiana and continue to lean into the Midwest values and the conservative values of the state.
Very good. Our next question goes to Mr. Doden.
I think.
As I mentioned in the introduction, when you were when a few moments ago,
Yeah.
I pointed
That
out
was a
that
good
you, of
answer.
course, headed the Economic Development Corporation under Governor Pence.
I think
What
Chambers-
role would the IEDC play in your administration, and how do you respond to critics who argue that the IEDC interferes with free enterprise, that it lacks transparency, favors certain regions, and essentially is able to pick economic winners and losers? 1 minute.
Yeah, I've been very clear on this, that the IDC should not be spending billions of dollars of taxpayer money buying land in one county and then discover we have a water problem and then taking water and resources from a smaller community to
Got a good
central
point,
Indiana.
man.
This
Isn't he
just
the leader of that
inappropriate behavior.
company?
Was.
What the IDC was
Most
under our
recently,
leadership
though,
was
was
a place
Chambers.
that businesses could come from all over the state to get help dealing with the bureaucracy of government. And that is the role that the IDC will play under my leadership. I do not believe that the IDC should be the LEAP Economic Development Corporation. It should be the Indiana Economic Development Corporation.
Oh,
And that is the kind of focus we're going to have with the IDC. But we still need, businesses need help all over the state. You know, people call us all the time and said, I'm having a difficult time getting a permit. I'm having a difficult time getting this information. And that is the proper function of the IDC. And that's the role it will play under my leadership.
speaking about.
Very good. Ms. Crouch?
As governor, I'll flip the script on economic development. We will empower our local and regional economic development organizations so we can have true collaboration and partnership. That's how we are able to grow our economy. But also eliminating the state income tax puts money into Hoosiers' pockets. It helps small businesses grow, and then it attracts workers to Indiana.
Ms.
She likes to
Reitenour?
use that line a lot.
The Indiana Economic Development Corporation is not what Hoosiers want in the state of Indiana. They want to be able to know where their property tax money is going. Actually, what they want is no property tax. They want to be able to know why we put a whale of a company in the middle of a desert-like situation where it's going to take $2 billion to get the water to it, which, again, they do not want this.
Yeah.
The Indiana Economic Development Corporation also has a regional office in China. With billion-dollar companies comes
Wow.
billions of strings. We have to be very
I
aware
like it.
that when these companies come into our state, they are also bringing all of their lobbyists and all of their ideology. We need to rebuild Indiana. There are many vacant buildings in our state that we can occupy. We do not have to expand. We can rebuild, which will save taxpayer money.
She was
Very good.
prepared.
And
She
Mr.
was
Chambers, I'm
prepared.
glad you asked me earlier about how you get
Yeah.
rebuttal time. You may want to use it.
Yeah, we may need to get a bigger clock.
Several people here certainly talked about the IEDC during your leadership.
Yeah.
You oversaw that agency
Mhm.
certainly under Eric Holcomb's administration, and in fact were in place when the LEAP project took
Yeah.
Yeah.
shape.
Yeah.
Weigh in on that. A couple people have not referred to you by name, but certainly that's an agency that you oversaw.
John, it's a terrific contrast between career politics and small thinking and big thinking that's going to put more money in Hoosier pockets. Under my leadership, for $1 a year, I stepped away from my business for $1 a year. We grew the economy by $51 billion in 2 years, and those are high wage jobs. Wages in Indiana are below U.S. average. That's unacceptable to me. We went out and solved that, bringing in $51 billion worth of high wage jobs, transforming communities all over the state, from Kokomo to St. Joe County to Allen County to Vigo County. So, to say that it doesn't have a role, we are competing against Ohio and China and North Carolina.
We need to be more
We're either going to win or
specific.
we're not going to win. But they will take those jobs if we don't want them in Indiana, to keep our kids and our grandkids here, to keep the kids that are graduating for Purdue.
He's for bringing China.
I got time?
Did you hear him just now?
2 years ago, I was sitting in Seoul, South
Basically, Illinois will take
Korea,
it. You know.
with a company called SK Hynix. 2 weeks ago, I'm in Tippecanoe County celebrating a $4 billion investment with high wage jobs in the semiconductor industry that Ty Dunk sponsored in the CHIPS Act and that Senator Braun vetoed and didn't support. If we listened to Senator Braun, we wouldn't have that $4 billion investment with high wage jobs. We're either playing to win or we're not in this state.
All right.
You're not
Mr.
making
Hill.
much sense, sir.
Well, the big problem here, thank you.
You got a couple of claps.
I like her. Thank you.
The big problem here is that the IEDC is a shadow government. We're talking about a quasi-agency. What does quasi mean? We're taking public money and putting it into an organization that hides the ball, lack of transparency. So all these wonderful things that Brad talks about, that's fine if you're playing above board and playing with an open deck. Under my administration, we will rein them in and make sure that they're providing the resources across the board and in balance with the rest of the state. Certainly not picking winners and losers. And the LEAP project is a prime example of the state gone wrong.
I see.
Okay.
I see. We have some interested parties down there who want to weigh in this.
Yes.
Let's take. All right, we're going to deviate from the script. About 15 seconds for each of you who wants to address this. We'll start down at the end.
Sure, I'd love to go first.
Miss Reitenour, go
I
ahead.
was just noticing that Brad didn't mention Boone County, because Boone County would be the county that is having all of the water taken from them. I actually met a man that was from Boone County, and he came up to me and he said to me, "This is not our Indiana anymore." And so I would like to know if Brad can address the many Hoosiers in the state that don't feel like it's their state of Indiana anymore, because they're not about the billions of dollars and billions of strings.
Ms. Crouch, did you want to weigh in on this too?
As a former county commissioner, you have to have collaboration. And visiting with the Boone County and Tippecanoe County commissioners, there has not been that collaboration between the state and local government. That's absolutely critical. That's why I want to empower local and economic development organizations to have that true partnership.
All right, Mr. Doden, go ahead.
Yeah, so again, I think we need to have a 92 county strategy in which every community has an opportunity to be successful, and where we recognize that small business and startups drive our economy. We all enjoy and appreciate the large investments that are made, but small businesses drive our economy.
Mr. Hill, can you get more applause this time, just with a mere introduction?
I think I can. I'm kind of concerned that the lieutenant governor is suggesting that there needs to be something done about the Economic Development Corporation. That's a part of her administration. So we have two people here on stage that are actually part of the EDC problem, and we need to be able to fix that problem by bringing transparency into the process.
All right, what we're going to do.
Ooh, okay.
We got it after this time. No,
There's a shot
Here's
across
what we're
the
going to do.
top
Here's
house.
what we're going to do. We're going to stick with the order. We're going to give Mr. Chambers his time to respond. And those of you who have we can't spend our whole time on this question, although certainly it is a point of contention. But let me see where we go with this. Please take it away.
I'm going to need more than 15 seconds. I'm just telling you. Listen, the fact that he
That's what you get, dude.
defines tens of thousands of high-wage jobs coming to Indiana as a problem tells you that he's not the right leader for Indiana. We need to grow our economy. To grow our economy and put more money in people's pockets, to fix education, to support our police and our firefighters and address mental health. Number two, on water. There is an abundance of water in this state, but the career politicians like Suzanne Crouch didn't take the time and didn't have the interest in studying it and knowing that it's an asset that we can use strategically against our competitors like Ohio and Michigan in Illinois. Right. So we have an abundance of water. It's a transportation issue. Bringing in outside investment to pay for that, not taxpayers.
All right.
Let's hope he doesn't win.
Two of you cited, we'll get to you. Hold on.
No.
Ms. Crouch, two people have suggested that you're a career politician, and Mr. Hill suggested that as part of the administration, you should have been more vocal, perhaps, as it related to your concerns now articulated about the LEAP project.
I am proud of my service as a public servant. You know, and I have voted for the largest property tax cut in our state's history. I pushed for broadband expansion, stood up for families that were being victimized by the FSSA, ended up standing up for people that are struggling with mental illness and addiction. Yeah, I'm proud of my service, Mr. Chambers, and certainly Mr. Hill.
This is getting good. All right.
Wow.
Ms. Reitenour.
You can tell there was more she wanted
Sure,
to
let's
say.
just finish it off. Here's the bottom
she
line,
goes,
Hoosiers.
nah,
In case
better
you did
not.
know, there are many Hoosiers in the state of Indiana that are losing their land because the IEDC came in and courted them for pricing that was way above the value of the land, which makes it hard for people to compete for that land here in the state of Indiana. Here's what's important. And first of all, I would love to get on the record where all those 10,000 jobs are. We're 100,000 jobs that need to be filled in the state of Indiana. We need to rebuild and not expand with billion-dollar companies that bring billion-dollar strings.
All right.
I love it. I love it.
Tell you what.
Yes.
It's interesting. I've been around Indiana in politics for a long time. I never thought I'd see Republicans fighting so much over economic development. I didn't back in the Bob Orr days. It's interesting. All right. So let's not leave. Let's compromise. We won't leave economic development entirely but we'll give our vocal cords a little bit of a break, and we'll use our hands with a raising of the hands to show on this one. So in 2022, Congress passed the CHIPS and Science Act. This law, which of course was co-authored by Indiana Senator Todd Young, co-authored with Chuck Schumer, authorized $280 billion in new funding for domestic research and manufacturing in the high-tech sector. Senator Braun, who again is not with us this evening, voted against that measure. Obviously, as co-author, Todd Young supported it. Show of hands, how many of you think that Mike Braun took the right vote on that issue? The CHIPS Act.
Interesting.
Do you agree that it was a flawed bill, and would you have voted the way that, in fact, Senator Young did? Just show me your hands here.
I support Senator Young, if that's your question.
Oh, I messed you up by suggesting Braun, and I switched it.
I
All right, let's make this. All right. Yep. All right.
Yeah, that's.
All right.
He made it
Let's
confusing.
make this easier. Let's
Yeah.
make this easier.
Yeah.
Had you been in the Senate, would you
There
have
you go.
voted yes or no? All of you who would have voted for the CHIPS Act, raise your hand.
As it's,
So we have, for those listening, we have Mr. Chambers, Mr. Doden,
Hodgson,
so
Jamie.
yeah,
and those who would have voted against. We have Ms. Reitenour.
Hill's
Crotch
not even sure what's going on.
and Crotch is like,
He's just kind of like,
Raise your
what?
hand one way or the other.
Crotch didn't raise her hand either.
I would vote against it based upon what I know. But, you know, I was talking about hypothetical questions. I'm not sure that's what we're here to discuss.
Well, there's not much hypothetical, though, about the notion of plants that are opening in a high-tech sector, which many states across the country are benefiting.
I just had a
No,
question on that.
No, we're not going to have questions at this point. Sorry. No, I asked the questions. Sorry. Remember, I said I'd be kind and gentle. Don't push me. Let's get back to, at the risk of restoring some sanity and some semblance of timing, to the open-ended questions, which again, our order goes back
This
to
is getting
Ms.
really
Brown.
interesting.
Yeah.
Indiana currently has one of the lowest income tax rates in the country among states that actually charge an income tax, and soon will have the lowest rate in the nation. Yet you wish to eliminate the income tax entirely, as you pointed out in your opening statement. Is it realistic to think that you can take away $8 billion, which is more than a third of Indiana's tax revenue, without hurting services and programs that you said you care about deeply, such as caregiver pay for Hoosiers with disabled family members? And you will have 1 minute.
That's
to
a fair
answer.
question.
You know, I'm one to lead the fight to eliminate the state income tax. I travel Indiana. Hoosiers are struggling today due to the high cost of living, inflation, and Bidenomics. We can put thousands of dollars back into their pockets every year. Now, my opponents will scream bloody murder and say we can't do it, but that money's yours, not theirs, and you will always spend it more wisely than the government. And so it has to be phased in. It can't happen overnight. We have to have triggers in place to protect against economic downturns. But as former vice chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, as former auditor of state, we can absolutely do it. We do it by limiting government growth. We do it by ending wasteful government spending. And we do it by finding efficiencies in government. When we do, we give you money back, which you'll put into the economy, which grows our revenues. We end up allowing small businesses to grow and prosper, and then we attract people to Indiana. And today, where are they moving to? Tennessee, Texas, Florida, South Dakota, no income tax states who, by the way,
It's
their
true.
GDP and their population is growing at greater rates than Indiana.
All right.
We need to be competitive.
All right, Ms. Reitenour.
That was a good answer.
Well, I'll start by saying, whenever I wasn't included in the two debates, it wasn't my voice that they weren't including. It was the Hoosier voice. Hoosiers want a true conversation about property tax in this state. And the reason is because property tax has been raised for many over 40%.
Yeah.
And so when we're having these conversations, we need to have the conversations at the Hoosier dining room table. Right now, when we talk about income tax, what we are most concerned about is this phasing in. Because to the everyday voter, when they hear phasing in, they hear that's not going to happen. So we are looking to look at property taxes, and we think that we can have a real conversation on the ground with our local offices.
But you
May
can't
8th,
phase it
when we
out
elect me to
completely
be a
right away.
Republican governor in the primary.
All right,
Flip
Mr.
the
Chambers.
switch and make it happen.
This is a
But it
political
doesn't
talking
mean-
point if there ever was one. She has not articulated a plan to cut $12 billion out of our budget, number one. She tweeted 2 weeks ago that vote for me and it'll be the last time you pay income taxes. So that's inconsistent with this phasing in concept she's got. She's not told us how much she's going to have to cut from education or public safety or police or mental health or healthcare or quality of life of initiatives. I go around the state and not a Hoosier that I've met believes this is doable.
That's what I'm
Good.
thinking. And I don't
Mr.
know
Hill.
how.
Well, the income tax, the tax proposal is a gimmick. It's not realistic.
How is that possible to do
What we
that?
can really offer are some solutions to our tax situation. We've got the Mike Brown gas tax. That was the biggest tax that we put in the state's Indiana history. And it's not the only big tax that Mike has. The CARES Act is the largest tax increase in the history of mankind, $4 trillion. And he's responsible for that as well. So we need to take a comprehensive approach at what we look at for reducing taxes and providing a fair process for taxation in this state.
Then Mike Braun.
Mr. Dillon.
Well, right now, the General Assembly is studying, how we
Yeah,
can
he co-sponsored it
properly
with Schumer.
reduce
Sounded
in a
like-
responsible
You're
way.
talking
the
about the
income tax. But the
chip
most
tax,
important thing
right?
I hear
Oh, the
voters
CARES
all over the
Act.
state of Indiana, especially our seniors, is property taxes. And the fact that our seniors are at risk of losing their homes because of the rising cost of property taxes, and that's just wrong. That's
Not
why
just
we're
seniors,
proposing
or
that
people
we'll
in
freeze
general.
property taxes
Yeah.
for seniors, giving them surety.
You can't
And
do
then
that.
make sure that we reduce the rate of growth.
You
And
can't do
will
that.
have
It's
to work
against
with
the
General
Indiana
Assembly, But
Constitution.
that's what we're going to focus on.
It's
Okay.
literally
Since
against
you
the
have been,
Constitution to factor in
suggestion
different
is
laws
you
for
have
different.
Oh, yeah.
Just a gimmick here on Hoosier voters.
was-
Let's give you at least 15 seconds to answer those accusations.
Well, I'm talking about a tax cut, not a tax replacement. And if my opponents understood the legislative process, they would also understand that it can
Ouch.
end for certain Hoosiers. And in addition to that, we also have to understand that it's not going to happen overnight. And by the way, we've been phasing it in. We were at 3.4%. Today we're at 3.1%. In 2027, we're going to 2.9%. Let's just keep going that direction. When we have excess surplus in revenues, put it
That's
towards
true.
eliminating the income tax. We can get there, helping Hoosiers, small businesses, attracting people to Indiana.
All right. And I'm not here to represent Mike Braun, but I will just say I've heard enough of his talking points at the debates. When we talk about the CARES Act, he said every member of Congress essentially voted for that. And for as far as the infrastructure,
That
the
makes
gas,
him a follower, not a leader.
well, the gas with good company. And he would point out that on the notion of the gas tax, it was important to keep the crossroads of America in terms
For
of.
not speaking for Mike Braun, you're doing a pretty good job of it.
Well, that's the
Is that Curtis Hill that said that?
earned applause. That's good. All right. Let's before, and this goes to you, Ms. Reitenour.
You don't
Before
see
we
that very
leave the
much,
subject
somebody
of
going after the
taxes,
moderator.
many voters submitted questions to the debate commission asking about rising property taxes. One, a resident
Mhm.
of Brownsburg, asks,
Okay.
considering the way house values have skyrocketed over the last few years and the resulting increases in property taxes, what are you going to do to protect homeowners? And you'll have a minute.
Hoosiers, this is a really difficult question. And the reason for that is because whenever you're talking about taxes, you need to have that conversation, not just at the state level, but at the local level. On May 8th, my intention is to go to all 92 counties to talk to the county commissioners and to have a real conversation about lowering your property taxes. What we know is that right now, there are a lot of residents that are coming from the schools. We love
Yeah,
our
that would be
schools.
an
We
interesting
want to
meeting.
support our teachers. We want our teachers to get paid well, but we are growing and expanding our schools at a rate that is not able to be kept up by the property tax owner. This is very concerning in the state of Indiana. $37,000 median income, $68,000 per household. We think that that's probably over the actual numbers. So right now, what we need to do is we need to have a conversation at the county level, which I'm going to do. This is not a gimmick. And I would really exhort you to think about who is running for governor and what they're doing with your money, because somebody lost $1 billion on the stage,
Well,
and that
I gotta
probably
stop-
also should be a
Got to stop
concern.
you right there. All right, Mr. Chambers.
Who lost
30
$1 billion,
seconds
do you
to
know?
Answer the
Well,
question.
lower taxes is always the goal. I do believe property
But
taxes
still, that
need
was
to
a
be addressed.
burn.
I would look at the assessments. They're different from county to county. People don't understand them. So simplify the assessment process and make them uniform across the state to the extent we can do that. Create consistency and understanding for people, and create some opportunities for seniors not to get kicked out of the
Interesting.
house and have portability of the built-in gains they have. listen, Suzanne Crouch and Mike Braun,
I think I know where you're gonna go
50
on
years
this.
of combined service, public service, have raised taxes 50 times. And she's not credible on cutting taxes with specifically 7 times cutting taxes in her term as in the legislature. So property taxes need to be focused on. I have a plan for it.
What are you
And
taxing?
it is a priority.
Cut taxes or she raised
Years
taxes?
into
What is he
15
claiming?
seconds, but
I think he
let's
was
try to
claiming
stick
that
to
she
that.
raised
Mr. Hill.
taxes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, please.
That must
Go
have
ahead,
been an
30
attack
seconds.
on Crouch.
Property tax is certainly a concern by a lot of people, but depending on where you go, so are income taxes and so are sales tax. We need to have a comprehensive approach. This isn't a gimmick. It's not a solution, a quick fix. We need to have a long-term plan for how to move forward. The problem is with the assessed values. The assessed values in every community are different. We need to work a strategy where the state works with the locals to come up with a good program so that we can manage our property taxes in an efficient, fair way, particularly as it pertains to young people and
Arguing
seniors.
for more state control.
Doden, what are you going to do about property taxes?
Yeah, that's exactly the foundation of our plan. So what we've seen is growth of property taxes by 15% a year, in some cases multiple years in a row.
Okay,
And that is very hard to plan for if you're on a fixed income.
that's
Why
true.
we're proposing that we'd freeze it for seniors.
You
But
can't
we'd also,
do that.
basically the growth would only be allowed to be about 5% a year under our plan, which makes it easier
That
for
you can
people in
do.
their budgets to plan. So that
It is
the
across the
foundation of our
board.
Plan for
Yeah.
how we help people with property tax issue that's raging right now across the state.
And Ms. Crouch.
You know, as a state representative, I voted for the largest property tax cut in our state's history, and I'm certainly open to that. And my opponents are entitled to their own opinions, but they're not entitled to their own facts. And as a state representative, I
Good
cut
lines.
taxes a dozen times, and that's why I want to continue to cut taxes and eliminate the state income tax, putting money into your pockets, helping small businesses grow, attracting people to Indiana.
All right. We are going to give those arms another chance to flex. I don't know what's the point you need Tommy John surgery or anything, but we're going to see if we can
What?
the vocal cords maybe go with this. So we'll wrap it
I
up.
like
All right.
On that.
When,
And we're going
Yeah,
to
her-
Tommy
these all
Johns.
deal this
oh, you don't know
next
what Tommy
section
Sir? A lot of
election integrity,
pitchers in
which has
baseball
been
have to
certainly
get
a
that to
persistent
their arms, to the
issue
throwing.
nationwide, and in recent years, so we've seen that come to the fore many times.
But it's just kind of a
The
weird thing to
candidate,
say at a debate.
who is likely to be at the top of Hoosiers ballots on the Republican side. Donald Trump certainly has weighed in quite a bit on the issue of what he sees as a lack of election integrity. So, show of hands. Raise your hands if you are confident in the integrity of Indiana's elections. All right, we have Mr. Chambers,
Jamie's the only
Mr.
one.
Hill, Mr. Doden, Ms. Crouch are all confident in the integrity of our elections, leaving Ms. Reitenour. That's one way to get 15 seconds. Go for it. Why are you
This will be
not
interesting.
confident in our election integrity?
Well, I'll tell you, in order for me to be confident in our election integrity, I really want to see more involving voters. And I can tell you that it is the hardest thing in the world to get on the ballot. Getting the signatures is very difficult to do.
It is.
I can also tell you that all around the state, many people don't even know that it's time to vote right now. I think our Secretary of State was actually out of the country.
Yeah.
So I just think it's wise
Really?
for
Oh,
us
yeah.
to be paying attention to how much attention is going on the
We'll
voting
talk about that
process
in a minute,
before
too.
we give it a rating.
Country was he in?
Again, show of hands. A significant number of Republicans in Indiana, certainly, and
The
elsewhere,
Secretary of
agree
State.
with President
I know
Trump's
it was
claim
that.
that the 2020 election was stolen. Raise your hand if
Secretary
you
of
agree that the election
Oh.
was stolen.
That question cannot be
That-
answered yes or
yeah,
no.
that's totally-
That is not a yes or no question.
That's
because
funny because I asked it as a yes or no question.
It involves facts.
Yes, do you,
Yes.
let me reframe it,
It's
Counselor. Counselor, is Joe Biden the duly elected president of the United States?
Yes.
All right. Anybody disagree?
I do.
Very good.
Wait, I just want to make a statement because I just think that's an unfair question. Let's just
It
be very
is.
clear. What happened in the 2020 election that everybody should agree on is that it wasn't properly adjudicated. So they,
All right,
they
let's
should
move
have
on.
spent more
Let's
time
move on.
investigating that
All right.
election, and it wasn't
Next.
it was not investigated.
Next
So
question.
that's an unfair question.
Good girl.
I think we know
Good for you.
where you come down. No, listen. Raise your, all right.
Oh, no.
I went
All
to
right.
bed at 2:00 in the morning with
Not a winning
President
issue.
Trump winning, and woke up in the morning and he was losing. There are anomalies that we can't understand, we don't know about, so we
All
cannot
right.
answer.
I'll
that
just say for
yes or no.
a question that's impossible to answer, you just answered it. So next try
I didn't
again.
answer with yes or no.
Raise your hand. Well, you did. Raise your hand if you will recognize the results of the November election for president, regardless of the outcome. Raise your hand if you will recognize the outcome of the presidential election in November.
We're not gonna, you're asking us to say something that hasn't even happened yet. We've
Right.
been on government
Yeah,
in the
let's,
state of Indiana.
that's
We would like
not,
to base
let's
that
move
facts.
on.
Well,
Thank you.
Is he working?
For you.
Is he working for the government?
I'm just saying that's a departure from convention. Oftentimes, those seeking the highest office in the state of Indiana who do
Let's get to the next
subscribe to
topic.
the notion that our elections are sound and a pillar of democracy would commit to agreeing with the outcome of the
But
presidential
what we're
election.
saying is that there's no way for us to know what happens between now
Wow.
and then. So for us to go out and say a country that is sought after by many places all over the world,
right.
we could be under.
Let's try
any
one
kind
more.
of an
Let's try
attack.
this
I mean,
one.
we can't.
Let's try this one.
Good for you. Good
All
for
right.
you, Jamie.
We're gonna try
Stand
this
up to
one.
this.
All right.
What is this? This doesn't involve
Right?
Indiana.
All right.
This is
Let's
going
try
off
this one.
the
This one you
rails,
can
man.
address, I think. Senator Braun, who again is not here this evening, received Donald Trump's endorsement for
There we
governor.
go.
How many of you would have welcomed President Trump's endorsement?
Why wouldn't we?
Oh, look at this
That's a
guy.
better question.
Yeah, I'm not here to
Is that
tell you whether
voted?
or shouldn't. I'm just asking you the question. You all would
It
have
just, it
welcomed.
seems like you're
I
really
agree.
trying to
I
cause
agree.
division in our party, and we don't appreciate it.
Yes, thank good for you.
What did Jamie say?
Right now, I think the party is doing quite capably on its own, creating some division.
Wow.
right.
Wow.
Who are you,
All right.
dude?
We're going to move on to
This guy's
the
a
next
Democrat.
open-ended
Dude.
question.
You can tell.
This goes
You
to
can
Mr.
absolutely
Hill.
tell.
I do appreciate the vigor, by the way. U.S. Supreme Court heard oral arguments this week in a case that could decide whether government can criminalize homelessness.
Yeah.
You support laws ticketing or arresting people who sleep outdoors.
We're going to have a show, yeah.
I'll give you a minute.
We're gonna be
to
talking
respond
about
to
this,
Mr.
too.
Hill.
I support communities having laws that prohibit camping and participating in the public areas of
Careful.
housing. I think that communities can move homelessness, and homelessness is an issue that's not about homelessness or housing as much as it is about mental illness and drug addiction.
Not always.
Not
So we
always,
need to be able to
dude.
provide
Not
No,
always.
this
people who
just goes to
require
show how
something.
out of
We
touch
also
he
need to make
is.
sure that
Yeah.
we remove dangerous situations from our
I have known
streets.
people who didn't
and
have
people living
drug
in the streets
addiction
is bad for them.
who were just
It's bad for the rest of us.
I've
and
been
I
homeless
support
before. It
communities
wasn't
being able to
on drugs.
eradicate that process
Yeah.
with compassion.
Yeah,
but
you
doing
lost
so in a
any
manner
chance
that
with
keeps
me,
us
guy.
safe and clean
Yeah.
and our communities open.
No.
All right.
Sorry.
Mr. Doden, before
Typical
you do, let me
Republican
just
talking
say,
point right there.
I appreciate your enthusiasm for the various candidates, but it takes away from the time that we have for the question. So please be mindful of that.
All right, let's move on.
Well, this is at the heart of our capital zone proposal where we want to have people feel safe and be safe.
Okay.
In our downtown
All right.
Indianapolis, where we've invested a lot of money as taxpayers. But we also want to make sure we have resources to help people overcome addiction and be restored to their families, be restored to their community.
You think that's
Again,
the
the
only?
assumption that every
Yeah.
homeless is an addict.
And local 501c3s. to
There
make
are
sure that we
some
have the
homeless that are
resources
at,
Absolutely.
but not all.
But not all.
And that's going to be an important part
No.
of what.
As
I
a
do
matter of
for
fact, I would
the state of
argue
Indiana.
that
Ms.
it's a
Pratt,
far
should the
higher
government have the
percentage that aren't
opportunity to
addicted.
arrest or
Yeah.
ticket the homeless?
You know, the bigger issue here is mental illness and addiction, and I'm the only candidate that says it'll be a top priority for me.
That's true.
We've seen a 20% increase in anxiety and depression among our population since COVID, but a 60% increase among young people. They are the future of Indiana. Suicide's the second leading cause of death among young people, and many of our homeless, in fact, I would dare say most of our homeless people struggle with mental illness and addiction. That's the bigger issue we should be talking about and addressing.
Not necessarily.
Not, yeah,
Ms.
that's,
Reitenour.
once again,
Indiana, you are a good state. And you recognize what's taking place right now. In our state, we care about our military veterans, which are oftentimes homeless.
thank you.
We're certainly a state that
True.
believes in law and order. There's definitely a candidate missing from the stage that did not support the police. But I support the police and I support law and order. But for our homeless issues, we definitely want to be those that are going and working with the already organizations all over our state that are caring for people that are in that state of mind. I also don't believe the government should be involved in the mental illness conversation. And I think that you should be asking yourself, if the government did what they did to you during COVID, what exactly are they going to be doing with people that have mental illness?
Oh, zing. Okay.
Mr. Chambers.
Wow.
I seem to be the only candidate that's talking about economic opportunity and growing our economy, lifting people up through higher wages and full employment. I think that's where a lot of this mental illness starts is lack of economic opportunity. Let's just start there. Number one, our protected serve plan. Our
So everybody who's poor is mentally ill.
That's what he's saying.
That's what he's saying.
Firefighters.
This guy cannot be
today, and they didn't sign
No.
up for that. We closed those facilities 30 years ago. We need to refund those behavioral health centers, number one, and we need to talk about and really focus on repeat and violent offenders, not ticketing homeless people. Let's get the repeat and violent offenders off the streets and deal with our bail system.
I'm with that.
Thank you all. And again, I would ask that you refrain from applause. You can smother them with hugs and kisses as soon as this is over and have pep rallies
Tyler,
if you
this is
desire.
the
Back
said,
to
what
the
is
questions
this? This
at
is
hand,
the
and this
gubernatorial
goes to
debate.
Mr. Doden.
For Indiana.
Why are
Indiana.
school test scores and graduation rates stagnating in Indiana? What innovative ideas do you have to change that and make improvements? 1 minute, please.
Yeah, well, we have a constitutional obligation and a moral obligation to do the best job we can to educate our kids. And that's why I'm for parental choice. I think it's been very good for us to give parents choice. Every kid is different. We had different kids in our family that had different needs.
That's true.
That's why I'm a big fan of vouchers and competition.
I'm a huge
Even
fan
our
of
public
school
school
choice.
administrators will tell me behind closed doors that this has helped make them better. But we also have a teacher investment program. We're going to invest in our teachers. We have a teacher crisis, especially in our small towns. And this teacher investment program goes right to the teachers. It's their income tax and property tax free. It's about a $5,000 pay raise for the average teacher. And then we're going to fund early childhood education. We have $1 billion coming due from good fiscal management. We put a stake in the ground and said, it is just inappropriate for us to even allow or think about that we get people to the third grade, kids to the third grade and can't read. Let's solve that earlier and let's make sure that we invest in the future of our kids. That's one of the most important things that we'll do.
Ms. Crouch.
Okay.
I want to create a lifetime education system focused on 4 R's: reading, writing, arithmetic, and reasoning. We will teach our children how to think, not what to think. And I want to take the 5 agencies that deal with education and workforce training and put them into one, where now everyone's on the same page, the same software system, focused on making sure that our children are prepared for that next step upon graduation, whether it's enlistment, employment, enrollment, or apprenticeship.
Okay.
Ms. Reitenour.
Indiana, there's an educational crisis taking place in this state. Nobody's been talking about it for the last 2.5 years, but I have.
That's true.
I've selected as my head of education Paige Miller. She has 30 years experience in the classroom and her master's in administration. K through 5, we're going to restore the focus on academics, unlike what was set up here on stage. There is a heavy focus on CRT and SEL that is taking up classroom time. We want to make sure that we bring trade back in our 7th and 8th grade. We want to bring in the private sector to talk to our 6th graders about how technology and AI is affecting their profession. We are ready to step up and become the training capital of the United States of America. That is who Hoosiers are. That is Indiana goodness.
All right. Mr. Chambers, your education strategy.
Thank you. This is our biggest challenge and our biggest opportunity. Our educational system is very backwards looking. It needs to be pointed forward into a modern economy, teaching kids to be ready for a modern economy. 20% of our kids can't read going in from 3rd grade to 4th grade. We have a literacy problem in 2024 in Indiana. That's unacceptable. 65% of our kids can't pass an I-Learned math test graduating 6th grade. That's unacceptable. We are not preparing our kids for economic prosperity in the future. We need to make education individualized to the kid. Kids learn differently today than they did 20 or 30 years ago. We need to make sure that our educational system is parent-centered. We're focused on trades in 7th grade, and we need to get more money to teachers and less to buildings and administrative costs.
Mr. Hill.
We need to have an education system that's free of federal entanglements. And while I support choice and vouchers, the reality is we don't have much of a choice when our options are some of the failing schools that we have in the state of Indiana. We need to make sure that we go back to the basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic, and we need to add civics, and we need to have high academic standards as we're moving forward. My wife is a teacher. My 5 children were products of public education. We understand what's necessary. We need to have parental responsibility along with parental rights in terms of education so that we have partnership between teachers and parents moving their children's education forward.
If I may just follow up, when you're talking about entanglements, and I know you've used that phrase at most of the debates where you all have met, are you suggesting you would not take federal funding?
I would urge local schools to quit taking the federal dollars that are tied with federal programs, et cetera. The federal government acts like a crack dealer. They dangle money out in front of you, and then you have to ride their programs. I asked the superintendent once, how much of your budget is federal dollars, and he said 7%. How much of what you do is pertaining to maintaining or attracting that 7%? Over 50% of what they do is tied to those federal dollars. If we get rid of the federal dollars,
will the
local schools
state
have the
make up
ability
that money?
to direct their own ability
You know what,
moving
if we-
forward with their own educational program.
Anybody
Quit
else
paying
think that
administration,
the
so
federal government's an educational
That's
crack
true.
dealer? Ms.
We've talked about that on
Yes,
a
the federal government, the
show.
Department of Education is constantly dipping its hands into the state, and then we're obligated to do whatever they're asking us to do, which in this case is programs like CRT and SEL. But we also want to take into consideration that as everyone up on stage who has worked currently with the current administration is complaining about our scores, they were focused on the IEDC while our children were failing in school. That is unacceptable.
Does anyone else want to weigh in on federal education? Ms. Crouch.
Yeah, I don't think we should take money, federal money that has strings attached that run contrary to who we are and what we believe in as Hoosiers. And so as governor, I'll make sure that my Department of Education and Superintendent of Public Instruction
That's the
does
problem.
not take that kind of money that has the strings attached that puts us in a direction that is different from our values and what we believe.
That would be
Does
nice to be
anyone else
able to
wanna
do
weigh in?
that, but sometimes you have to.
All right, let's move on to the next question. This is for Ms. Crouch. As you pointed out, you have served in both the executive and legislative branches. Certainly you held office at the county level as well. And you've headed several agencies in your role as lieutenant governor. At the same time, you said there's room to make government more efficient. We've talked a lot about audits and so forth. Can you name one state agency that you would downsize or eliminate and tell us why?
Just about all of them.
Elimination or downsizing?
We have both. You know, one of the things that we want to do is totally modernize.
You won't be
state
governor over
government.
much of a, if you're do all of them.
Want to totally modernize state government. Being able to take our 100 boards, agencies, and commissions and get them down to a more
Kinda
manageable
is,
size.
yes.
But we want to remove rules and regulations that add to the cost of doing business and don't make sense. And then in addition to that, we want to have outside independent audits so we can determine how we can do a better job and how we can do it more cost effectively and efficiently. We will realize cost savings that then we can put towards new programs. We aren't the only state doing this. Iowa is doing this. And they have projected with their reorganization of their state government, they will realize $215 million of savings over 4 years. We are 5 times the size of Iowa. So yes, we modernize, we totally reorganize. We will realize cost savings that then can be put towards new programs and new services for Hoosiers and give you your money back.
All right, Ms. Reitenour.
One of the programs that, one of the departments that we would be decentralizing is the Department of Equity and Inclusion, the DEI. What we would like to do is we'd like to decentralize that and put that in all of our very small towns all over the state of Indiana that really want to be included. And we would like to change then that name to a better citizen because we want to have a focus in our state on our Constitution and how the many immigrants that have come here lawfully need to be studying that Constitution, not to mention those that are here that are not legal, which we probably should also talk about at some point in time. But we want to definitely be those that are shrinking government, not expanding government. And so again, Hoosiers, if you want a politician, there's everybody on the left end of the stage. If you want a person for the people, I'm running for governor and I ask for your vote.
Mr. Chambers, anything you would want to eliminate or downsize?
John, I've been reinventing business for a living for 40 years. I've been building a company and reshaping it, and building a team and addressing the challenges of an ever-changing marketplace. Suzanne Crouch, she ran the housing agency. She ran over it. She didn't do a thing. It's been the same agency. It hasn't produced any more housing units. It hasn't had any more efficiency. So she's talking about things she's going to do, but she hasn't done the things that's right on her plate within her portfolio now. I mean, come on, you need a CEO in this state. We need somebody to run things like a business, to shrink government, to get regulation out of people's lives. That's going to take someone from outside government. It's not going to take a legislator to do that.
Ms. Crouch, I will get to you, but let's stick with the order here, Mr. Hill. Agencies you would like to downsize.
Well, I appreciate Jamie's decentralization of DEI, but I'm going to get rid of it altogether on day one. We need to eliminate diversity, equity, inclusion in our state government. Diversity is a wonderful thing, but not at the cost of excellence. Inclusion is a wonderful thing, but not at the cost of competence. And equity is a wonderful thing, but not at the cost of fairness. And along with that, we're going to take a good look at the Indiana Department of Education. There's over 250 staffers making a lot of money at the Department of Education, and you still got third graders who can't read. How about cutting that in half? We're going to get started with that as one example.
Mr. Doden.
Okay. That was a good answer.
Any agencies you see fit to pare back or eliminate?
Yeah, I've talked about this over the last 3 years. One of the most important things the governor does is hire the 30 agency heads that employ 30,000 people, spend $22 billion of state money and $22 billion of federal money. And I'm the only candidate on the stage that has said every agency head will have to reapply for their job. What we've been doing is collecting talent and names of people who are willing to come in and serve. Our experts suggest that there's about 15% of waste right now that we can get out of the system. And that's going to be the focus of my administration, bring the most talented people to bear to make sure that these agencies serve the people of Indiana.
Ms. Crouch, the suggestion was that you didn't do enough to create ample affordable housing. Would you like to respond?
As Lieutenant Governor, I have more responsibilities and duties than any other Lieutenant Governor in the country. I head up 4 agencies. I'm Secretary of Agriculture and Rural Development. I head up the Community Development Association. I also head up the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, Indiana Destination Development Corporation. All of those agencies have been focused on how to make Indiana grow, how to create more housing units, particularly for those that are vulnerable, those with disabilities, homeless veterans, 2,700 units that have been added, first-time home buyers assistance, $2 billion investment in main streets. I stand on my record. We have been doing a good job to be able to help Hoosiers. And we're going to continue to do that when we eliminate the state income tax and put a focus on those struggling with mental illness and addiction.
Ms. Reitenour, I'll give you 15 seconds.
Yes, I just want to point out to Hoosiers that this is the debate, right? Because we are actually talking about a conversation about socialism. It just doesn't look like that. We have to decide in the state of Indiana, are we conservatives or are we not conservatives? If we're conservatives, we believe in less government, not all of these departments expanding and expanding to solve more and more problems in our communities. We actually believe the private sector should step in and solve the problems, not the government. And when you elect people that believe the government is the answer, you get bigger government and more taxes.
All right, we're about to hit the hour mark. We'll be bidding farewell to some of our broadcast partners. Anybody, 15 seconds on this notion of housing, and anybody want to weigh in on that? By the time I look at you, and my 15 seconds will be up. All right. Well, what we will do is this.
What the heck was that?
We are going to pause for a moment, as I said, to wish some of our broadcast audience farewell, as some of the TV and radio stations move on to other programming. The final 30 minutes, don't go anywhere, the final 30 minutes of the Indiana Debate Commission's GOP gubernatorial primary debate can be found online via the websites of media outlets across the state or at indianadebatecommission.com. A recording of the full debate will also be available shortly after this is finished. And we'd also like to take this moment to thank our supporters.
Yeah, I would say for sure Jamie Reitenour is doing
And a
the best
Broadcasters Association,
out of everyone.
the Indiana State Bar Association,
Shawn unfortunately had to take
AARP,
off. He has
and the
a
following.
family member that had to run to the hospital, so he went to take care of that. That's why I told him, keep me informed and everything okay.
All right. Back where we left off with another question, open-ended question, a 1-minute response. If you would like to take it, this goes to Ms. Reitenour. Indiana has an abortion law that bans most abortions from day one of pregnancy and only allows termination up to 10 weeks in cases of rape or incest, up to 20 weeks in the case of fetal anomaly, or in cases where the pregnant individual's physical health or life is at risk. Do you support current statute in Indiana, or does the ban go too far or not far enough?
This is irrelevant. The governor can't change any of this.
Hoosiers, I'm for life. The reason I'm for life is because I believe in the creator of life. I also believe in a concept that I know is one that you reap what you sow. If you sow life, you'll reap life. Right now in the state of Indiana, we have put exceptions when it comes to abortion. And I'm not talking about the exceptions that are made, which really aren't exceptions. They're more medical decisions between two patients, the mother and the baby. I'm not talking about those scenarios.
Okay.
But we've made exceptions. If you look and see how many abortions took place in 2023 and the gestation age, you will see that it was higher than prior years. We need to be a state that says we are for life, because we are in a conversation right now in our country about how our future is going to end up. And if we want to be a country that is for goodness, we need to be a country that supports life from the very beginning all the way to the end. And so I am a candidate, a governor candidate that is more than willing and oh so ready to have that conversation with Jennifer McCormick. I know that she's been courting governor candidates right now to do that, but we'll have that conversation after May 7th.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers, is the law currently in Indiana where it should be in your view, or too stringent or not stringent enough?
I'm pro-life. I believe the exceptions are important, but what I hear from Hoosiers going around the state is about property taxes. I hear about quality of life issues.
Right.
I hear about education and healthcare issues, and creating an economy to lift people up, to grow families. And that's what my focus would be.
This moderator is.
Mr. Hill.
Well, I brought 2,411 aborted babies back from Illinois to have them buried in Indiana to establish their humanity. And our statutes are fine until we don't enforce them. And we have a problem right now with TPRs. Terminated pregnancy reports are not being filed by the health department, and the current governor and the administration are not supporting that. As governor, I will direct the health department to file for public notice the termination of pregnancy reports to make sure that we can enforce our abortion ban. It's no good to us if we can't enforce it, and that's what's happening currently.
Ms. Crouch.
I am pro-life. Do you want me to go before?
I'm
Do you
sorry.
want me to speak for Eric?
Unintentional. No.
Look, I've
Please,
been
Mr.
clear
Dutton,
on this
forgive me.
topic from day one. I'm ardently pro-life. It's a human rights issue, and it's a religious issue for me. And I think that I was really proud of our General Assembly for passing a pro-life law right away as soon as they could. The law, I think, is settled, and that's why we're focused on things like zero-cost adoption that allows
This discussion is pointless.
Foster care to get in loving homes, and that allows us to strengthen the family. And these are issues that everyone's getting behind. People are excited about. One of the most important things that we can do is strengthen the family and make sure that we have strong families, and that's what we're going to focus on.
Now, Ms. Crouch.
I am pro-life. My record is clear, and I cast a tie-breaking vote to strengthen Indiana's abortion laws. And today, Indiana is one of the most pro-life states in the country. But it's equally important that we protect and save life and support those mothers and those babies. And it's why I am so proud that we have dedicated $45 million to supporting pregnant women, to supporting mothers, and to supporting those children up to 2 years of age, to be able to give them the kind of support that indicates that we protect, but we also support life at all stages.
Let's stay with this subject for a moment, and maybe we can address your questions in this one. All 5 members of the current Indiana Supreme Court were appointed by Republican governors. In handing down that court's decision on Indiana's abortion law, which, as you pointed out, was one of the first and most stringent in the country, a majority of those members of the court found that Article 1, Section 1 of Indiana's Constitution does give women the right to, in cases of threat to their life and well-being, physical well-being, to, in fact, they have a right to abortion. As far as I know, that's the first time the court has staked out that particular position. Did that court, do you agree or disagree with that?
Oh my God, what is this?
Starting with a show of hands, and I know several of you other. Do you agree with the 5 members of the Supreme Court, a majority of
Oh my God, this
said
guy.
that women have this right?
This is a dead
under certain
issue, dude.
circumstances
Move on.
when they're facing death or significant physical harm
What?
under Article 1, Section 1 of the Indiana Constitution. How many agree with the majority of the Indiana Supreme Court?
There are real questions that need to be
Very
asked.
difficult because, as everybody knows, with court opinions, they're very individual per case. I don't know if that was a case precedent that they're now setting. I have no
Right.
idea the circumstances of the specific person that brought that case forward. But I think that what we have said is that a mom and a baby, whenever they are approached in a situation that is difficult for the mother's life, it's the baby and the mother's life that's at stake there. And I would support the doctor making a decision for both. So I don't know really where that puts me with your question.
Well, the question simply was, did the 5 members of the Supreme Court, or the majority of those, get it right? Nobody raised the hand that said they thought they got it right, correct? Okay.
Well, I just want to say something else. I'm so sorry, because this is actually a really big issue on the conservative platform, and we don't tend to talk about it very much, which is concerning. SCOTUS, whenever they put their opinion together after Roe v. Wade, it was a phenomenal opinion. Every conservative should read it. They essentially said that it needs to go back to the states, that when Roe v. Wade was declared way back when, that it wasn't done in a manner that was fitting. They actually talked about how at the time there was no case precedent, and that they should have looked out at the states at the time that Roe v. Wade took place.
All right.
And if they had done that,
I'm
they
gonna-
would have seen
I'm
the
gonna have to
states
cut
did
you
not
off.
want abortion.
All right.
Right.
let's-
When somebody says
let's
something
stick,
intelligent, they get cut off.
At the risk
So
of
you want to ask your stupid
dwelling on
abortion.
this, this is an important issue. You correctly pointed out this is a subject important to conservatives and progressives alike. Let's start this open-ended question, related but unrelated, and I guess we will start with Mr. Chambers then. Most of you in previous debates have indicated support for in vitro fertilization, or IVF. How do you reconcile your pro-life views with the fact that typically in order to create life using IVF, you generally have to destroy embryos because the process creates embryos that simply aren't going to be used? Is that tough to reconcile? Let's start with you, Mr. Chambers.
First and foremost, I mean, the joy of my life has been my 28-year-old son, and I want that joy to be spread to all Hoosiers. And so I do support IVF and want it to be available to as many Hoosiers as can possibly be to grow their families, period.
Let's just go right down the line. 30 seconds.
I believe in a culture of life, and along with that culture of life is the opportunity for couples, loving couples who want to have children, who are not able to have children, to participate in an in vitro process. I support that moving forward. And on top of that, I want to support enforcement of our abortion ban. And what I would want to know from all of my opponents, are you willing to step up to the plate and enforce the TPRs, making sure that the health department is providing TPRs so that we can enforce the abortion? I'd like to know that, because so far I'm the only candidate that has spoken out that says we will enforce the terminated pregnancy reports to make sure that we can enforce the law.
Is that the most important thing for the state of Indiana right now?
So we're going to work with the General Assembly to protect IVF. I mean, we want families to grow. We want strong families, and that's an important part of what we're going to do. I also will make sure that all of our agencies follow the law and report what they're supposed to report in a timely fashion. That's going to be a really important part of my administration, and we've made that clear.
Ms. Crouch.
You know, I am pro-life. My record's clear. But as a woman and as a mother, I cannot fathom the pain that a couple or a mother goes through who wants so desperately to have a baby and hasn't been able to have it. So we have to wrap our arms around these women, and we have to support them and support life. And give them the right to be able to bring children into this world.
Wasted way too much time on this question, in my opinion.
All right. Ms. Reitenour.
I'm a firm believer in life, and I think everyone should have the opportunity to have life. I also think that it's interesting that we're talking about this specifically, noting that there's a lot of aborted fetuses that take place that are put in vaccines, and we haven't talked about that at all. And yet we are in a state that was recommending, and really even people are losing their jobs for not getting those vaccines. I would also just want to point out, to answer Curtis Hill's question, yes, I would absolutely support the transparency that we're looking for with these abortion reports. And I would further say that we are 5 candidates that are running for governor in the state of Indiana on the conservative ticket. And I think it's very fair for us to say to Governor Holcomb, we are all asking you together to support transparency and get those reports to the people.
All right. Now, those reports traditionally have been under Indiana statute, as I understand it, because they contain medical information, have been redacted by the Department of Health.
I was the Attorney General in the state. They were not medical records before. They're not medical records now. Any information that would be able to identify someone has been taken out of the program. So get your facts straight.
My facts are merely that the DOA, Department of Health, had in fact been redacting that information. So if you have a concern, take it up with them. Mr. Chambers, different question. In what ways do you believe immigration at the southern border is affecting Indiana? A Lafayette resident wants to know, would candidates support cracking down on Hoosier businesses that employ undocumented immigrants?
That's a good question.
The border is a huge challenge, the Biden border, I call it. And if Senator Braun wasn't in Biden's basement tonight and he's here on the stage, we talk about his failure to put up legislation to lead on anything related to the border, except going down and taking taxpayer-funded photo ops at the border. It's a challenge. A broken border, the front door's closed, the back door's flapping wide open. It's now a state problem. And so I would wear out my welcome in D.C., making sure that
You're not going to fix it in
now
D.C.,
putting our
doofus.
guardsmen at risk. Our guardsmen at risk, Senator Braun and Biden are putting our guardsmen at risk because they're doing nothing about it. We have a fentanyl problem because of a broken border. So Hoosier lives, and then you have criminals coming into
This
our
is the guy
state.
who in the
Hoosier
last
lives are at risk
yelled
because
at
of
Braun for
DC's
not
failure.
signing that
It
crappy
needs to be
order.
addressed, and a governor needs to be strong on this issue,
So
not
it
just
shows me right
send
there, he has no
guards
idea
down and fund it. We need to advocate
We
for a
expect when
strong
somebody
border
looks up to
at a
Michigan.
state level.
Mr. Hill, would you support cracking down on Hoosier businesses that employ undocumented workers?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Immigration is not supposed to be a state issue, but it has to be because the federal government and Senator Braun has abdicated their responsibility to making that happen. So we need to send that the patrol down to the border. I called for the National Guard, the Indiana National Guard, to go down to the state of Texas before Governor Holcomb put that forward. But step two is no safe haven for illegal aliens in the state of Indiana.
Yes.
No sanctuary cities, no businesses that under the excuse of we need labor, we're going to hire just about anybody. We can't have it both ways. We're either going to stop illegal immigration or we're going to lay down for it.
Right.
I'm not laying down for anybody.
All right.
Mr. Duggan.
Biden needs to do his job. Congress needs to do their job.
Okay.
And as your governor, we're going to wake up every day working hard to embarrass the federal government into better performance. That's what I can tell you we're going to do. Now, in the meantime, when they're not doing their job,
Hey, what is that?
then it's incumbent on us to support our governors at the border. That's why I've said we will send the National Guard to the border to help protect the border, support our governors. We're going to support our law enforcement. Rule of law is the foundation to this country, and we simply must follow the rule of law.
Ms. Crouch.
Okay.
Due to the failed policies of the Biden administration, we now have 9 million illegals in this country. And last year alone, we stopped almost 200 people at the border on the terrorist watch list.
Yes.
Every state is a border state, including Indiana. And so as governor, I will send National Guard down to help protect our southern borders, but I also will protect Indiana's borders, making sure that we don't get that influx of illegals that bring the deadly fentanyl, that also bring human trafficking. It's absolutely incumbent that we keep Indiana strong. That's why in 2011, as a state representative, I voted to prohibit sanctuary cities in Indiana. As governor, if they come here, we'll send them to sanctuary cities in other states.
Ms. Reitenour.
Yes, I would just say, as Curtis was just saying, that there are illegal immigrants that are already here in the state of Indiana. And so what you have, Indiana, is you have a very intense situation that's taken place because of a lack of leadership. And even you could say a president that was promoting illegal immigration. We do need to have a stop of illegal immigration at the border. Why any governors would be participating in an administrative solution from a logistical standpoint without actually stopping what's taking place there seems like it wouldn't make any kind of sense. But I would also say that I think the Conservative Party needs to support everyone that's waited lawfully to come in and do a fast track to citizenship for all of the immigrants that have waited lawfully. We need to be a Conservative Party that is shining the light on that kind of immigration. And then we also need to address the many that are here right now. Taking all of those people and putting them back at the border, to me, seems like a logistical nightmare. I think that we need to have some kind of pause, some kind of temporary situation where those people are not citizens, but are able to get some kind of a certificate so that they can work here in the state of Indiana and pay taxes.
All right.
No, you just lost me.
Follow-up
You
question,
just
of course,
lost me.
and we'll probably just want to do this with a show of hands initially.
They
The
need to
Heritage
go home.
Foundation, conservative think tank, this
They need
month
to be sent home.
proposed that states
I am all
should
for
charge
legal immigration.
tuition, essentially, of the undocumented children or the parents, certainly the children of undocumented.
They're not undocumented, they're
immigrants
illegal.
Children who were not born here.
You can tell where
Essentially,
he sits.
public school tuition for grades K through 12. Do you think that makes sense? The Heritage Foundation's proposal to
It would
argue
offset
that
some of
this
the
is a burden
costs.
in some states more than others in terms of providing this kind of education. Where do you all stand? If you agree with the Heritage Foundation that
Oh my God.
that schools should in fact charge tuition of of undocumented workers at kindergarten through 12.
They're not undocumented
We've had much
workers.
more
They're
discussion
illegal
certainly as a
aliens.
nation about higher education. But what about, all right, you,
So John, if I can.
If you
This guy,
would give
man.
us more time to answer the questions, we will. I mean, you're really kind of pigeonholed us a little bit, and these are really tough situations.
Listen, Americans are tired of an illegal immigrants coming across our
Yes.
border. Hoosiers
Yes,
are
we are.
tired of immigrants coming across the border.
Yes, we
7
are.
million in the last count. And so we need to enforce our laws. We need to fix our border.
way more
Our
than
senator
7 million.
needs to do his job, which he's not doing. So I don't like, she said, I don't think I haven't read the Heritage.
all right, fair enough. Mr. Hill.
I don't know what the question was, but I think what you're getting at is, no, I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah.
I think what you're getting at is do we want to have, do we think that we want to charge illegals to be educated? And the answer is no. I don't want to have a system where illegals are able to buy their way into our citizenship, into our freedoms, into our rights. If you are here illegally, there's no price you can pay to gain access to what's ours.
Yes.
That's worth protecting.
Okay.
Anybody else want to
Good
weigh in
job,
on the
Chris.
question that
All right.
I apparently wasn't clear about? Should kids be charged tuition if they're undocumented?
Well, again, I was just saying that one of the things that I suggested is that we should have a way for people to pay taxes and not be citizens. You guys, there is a major problem here that our Constitution does not actually address because we have a president that was being irresponsible and even hurting our nation by leaving the borders open. So we really do need to come to the table with strong governors that can come together and with the strength of the states, come up with a logistical, administrative solution that will be good for all of the citizens of the state of Indiana and their states as well.
All right, we are almost to essentially closing statements, final question, but I do want to try this arm thrust one more time. And this I think we can get this one. Mask mandates should be banned in public schools in case of another pandemic. If you agree, raise your hands. I just wanted to see if the microphone was working. All right. With that, we have come to the close essentially of the final debate. You will each have 2 minutes to address anything that we left on the table tonight, or
Final
make your
statements.
final
Let's see what we
pitch
got
to Hoosier voters. And let's start. Let's make it simple. Mr. Chambers, go ahead.
Thank you for being here. What a journey. A lot of firsts in the Chambers family in the last 7 months. I've never done this before. I'm not a politician. I'm certainly not a career politician. What I am is a grateful Hoosier. I started a company from nothing 40 years ago. And I felt the pains of starting a business from nothing. I worried about payroll and putting food on the table and gas in the car. It was a tough journey, but I'm grateful. And because of that, this is a service opportunity for me, not a career change. I believe in the potential of this state. I served for $1 a year for 2 years to grow our economy, to bring a business-like approach, to have optimism and urgency, to build a great team, to raise wages, to do things that hadn't been done, to go win. You know, and we weren't winning in a way that was leaving people behind. Wages matter. Being below U.S. average wage matters. And so we have to go play to win, because then when you have a growing economy, you can fix education and government can actually shrink because unemployment goes down, Medicaid use goes down. So listen, I'm with you.
Shannon says this is the biggest kill. It's killing me too, man.
CEO,
this is
someone
insane.
to run it like a business. I was in
and this guy, whoever this
Saturday night, and the man came up to me and said, "I just voted for you."
Good
and
Lord.
it gave me
it is not time for a CEO to run it like a business. Mitch Daniels tried that.
Because I'm working hard to earn votes.
Made a lot of mistakes.
I'm rolling out policy. I'm doing the work, going around meeting Hoosiers, listening, because that's what CEOs do. You have our senior senator who doesn't show up. He doesn't listen. He mails it in. He expects people to vote for them. I don't. I'm honored by a vote. And that's what I've been working to do, is earn your vote. And then I'll work hard to deliver on that effort and make Indiana better than it has ever been. So thank you. I would appreciate your support on May 7th.
Yeah, not a chance. Next.
Mr. Hill, your closing thoughts.
I'm running for governor because Hoosiers are hungry for proven conservative leadership. And the most important word that I've said there is proven leadership. How do you know? How do you know what someone's going to do going forward? It's based on their history and record of what they've done in the past.
True.
We're facing assaults on absolute truth on a regular basis, the manipulation of justice, the weaponization of race designed to keep you silent, and the sexualization of our children is destroying the America that we know and love. Don't let politicians give you a laundry list of conservative talking points and say that's enough. Prove that you can do the job. I believe in a culture of life. That's why when 2,411 Indiana aborted babies were found discovered in that Illinois garage, I didn't let it go. As your attorney general, I went and brought them back to establish the humanity in death that was denied them in life, because I believe in a culture of life. I believe in liberty, freedom. That's why when the Holcomb Crouch administration announced its mask mandate in 2020, as your attorney general, I put a stop to it. It's about freedom. It's about liberty. And ladies and gentlemen, I believe in truth. That's why when the Bureau of Motor Vehicles created a third gender, I put a stop to it as attorney general. Why? Because the truth is there are only two genders, male and female, and that's worth fighting for. We need courage. We need to be able to, you need to be able to count on the people that are on this stage, the person on the stage that will get the job done. My name is Curtis Hill. I have a record of getting the job done. I would appreciate your support on May 7th.
Mr. Dodd.
I think what's important for a leader is to have a bold vision for the people of Indiana and the ability to implement that vision. And we have more plans in writing than everyone on this stage combined. So what I'd encourage you to do is go to our website and interface with every one of our plans, help us improve them. But let me go through them quickly. We have a plan to restore small towns for the first time ever in history. Okay. We've never had a plan for the 2.5 million people that live in small town Indiana. And it's at the core of our very culture in Indiana, and is at the core of business growth and everything that we should be about in this state. We have a plan for each of our regions to be one of the top in the country. You know, we took Fort Wayne from not ranked in 2015, built a team, and today it's the 32nd best place to live in the United States, according to U.S. News and World Report. We did that under 7 years. We can do that all over the state. We have a plan for zero cost adoption to get our 13,000 kids in foster care and loving homes. We have a plan to protect our seniors and making sure that they do not lose their homes by freezing property taxes. You know, we have a plan to make sure that we grow every single part of our economy in all 92 counties. These are the kinds of things that you should be looking for. But as I close tonight, I'm going to ask you for some things. First of all, I'm going to make one observation, and I've said this across the state. Fear and faith are incompatible. And there's a lot of fear right now in politics, a lot of fear. And fear and faith are incompatible. God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of what? Power, love, and a sound mind. So what I'm going to ask of you is to roll up your sleeves and put your faith to work. It's going to take a team effort from everyone in this room. Not one person up here is gifted enough to do it alone. I'm going to ask you to have a bold vision for your community and expect us to be a great partner to you. And then lastly, I'm going to ask you to pray for us. Pray for safety as we travel. Pray for wisdom, most importantly, and pray for a servant's heart. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Crouch.
I'm running for governor because I care deeply about Indiana, and I care deeply about you. And I'm the only candidate on the stage that has the experience to be able to deliver results. We want to start by eliminating the state income tax. We're going to axe the tax. We can put money into your pockets. Today, it costs you $11,400 more than it did 3 years ago just to meet basic needs. Now, my opponents, and I'm the only one saying we're going to eliminate a tax, my opponents say it's a gimmick. It can't happen. But what they're really saying is government needs more of your money and you need less of it. Yeah. We can do it. As former vice chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, as former auditor of state, we can do it. If we limit government growth, if we end wasteful government spending, and we find efficiencies in government, we can give you money, we can allow small business to grow, and we can attract people to Indiana. But I'm also the only candidate on this stage that has said that helping those that struggle with mental illness and addiction will be a top priority. Since COVID, 20% increase in anxiety and depression, suicide, second leading cause of death among young people. And that is why, as governor, we will never have mass mandates or lockdowns, because what it has done to all of us, but particularly our children. I'm running for governor because I want to make sure that Indiana does not become in California, New York, and Michigan, or in Illinois. I'm running to protect our conservative values. As governor, I'll make sure that parents control what's being taught to our children. We'll stand shoulder to shoulder with police and enforce our crime laws to the fullest. We'll axe the tax. We'll live within our means. We're not going to saddle our children and grandchildren with a mountain of debt. Okay. You see, the Indiana you and I will build will never cast aside our most vulnerable Hoosiers, the unborn, the elderly, the disabled, those struggling with mental illness and addiction, because they are our families, our friends, and our neighbors. We will never compromise in protecting faith, family, and freedom. I'm Suzanne Crouch. I'm running for governor. I ask for your vote on May 7th so we can build a better Indiana together. Thank you.
Okay.
And Ms. Reitenour.
Well, Indiana, I would just ask you if you feel like any of that is actually happening right now. We live in a state that says that it's a red state and believes in conservative values, and yet I am trying to figure out where the conservatives are in government. Right now, we are having a big issue in our state because we're discussing matters that you and your communities are also discussing. There's a moral crisis, and there's a very big debate about socialism and capitalism.
Yeah,
In our state, what that looks like is it looks like billion-dollar companies investing in this state. We have 100,000 jobs already available. These billion-dollar companies are bringing these high-paying jobs, but I ask you, for what workforce?
Yes,
Because on their watch, these politicians, our education has failed.
that's true.
There are over 100,000 third through eighth graders that are not able to do basic reading and math. That's a failure. 6 years ago, I was asked by the Lord, I was told that I would be the governor of the state of Indiana. I know that sounds wild. I waited for 4 years for that confirmation. I was at Panera. A person came up to me and said that I had a love for more than just my family. It was for the people, and I should follow that love. And then the next week, I heard a man say to me that I needed to let my past go and I needed to walk forward in the calling for my future. And he said I needed to allow the Lord to renew my mind that I might approve his pure and acceptable will.
Most
I
people
want
do.
you to know, Indiana, that I've done a lot of walking around this state. And it really broke my heart when I saw Hoosier and Boone County that said this is not our Indiana anymore. If you want billions of dollars in backroom business, choose the politicians. If you want someone that loves freedom, that's going to look out for your families and encourage you to grow in this state through the private sector and through the good people that you are, then check out our website at jamieforiangov.com, because that is Indiana goodness.
One thing you all made clear tonight is you don't like my yes or no, raise your hand questions. So I'm going to ask the last one, and I'm going to direct it myself.
Yes.
I'm asking myself, who appreciated the fact that these candidates were willing to engage in a vigorous discussion of the issues of importance to Hoosiers? I'll raise my hand. I appreciate you all for doing that. And I also, to those who have watched or listened to this evening's debate, I thank you for caring about our state, its governance, and our collective future. Please remember to vote May 7. I'm John Shawn, and on behalf of the Indiana Debate Commission, I thank you, and I wish you a good night.
Let's see if we see anything interesting after the debate. No, it looks like. Okay, yeah, they're just going around shaking each other's hands. I was going to say sometimes after these debates, man, things get a little buck wild, but not in this case apparently. So that's what we got, ladies and gentlemen. This is the last gubernatorial debate before the primary. The only one who was not on stage was Senator Braun.
This program is made possible.
Association, the Indiana State Bar Association,
There we go.
AARP, and the following.
Interesting. So that's what we got. That's who we have to choose from. Sans Mike Braun, who was not there. This is it. I will tell you that Doden, absolutely not.
Kansas is not wrong. In the 237 years of our nation's history, I don't know that there has.
Not sure where that came from. So Doden, nope. Chambers, absolutely not. He concerns me. I'm just going to put it out there. He concerns me. He is obviously a huge fan of foreign businesses buying up land. I mean, he all but said it during the debate. He is all for other countries investing here, billion-dollar corporations investing here. And one thing that Jamie said I do agree with is billion-dollar companies come with billion-dollar strings. So for me, I'm going to tell you, it really, like, it comes down to Crouch or Reitenour. And I'll tell you, I like Reitenour had me. Reitenour had me until it came to the whole, we've got 9 million illegals here. Let's keep them here. Let's get them to pay taxes. What? No, we need to get rid of them. We need to send them back where they came from because they are just a drain on the economy. Shannon says, let's unpack this. How many questions asked were effectively answered by the candidates? Why can we not have a candidate answer a question directly? You know what? That's a great point. Over and over in these debates, we see consistently where a moderator asks a question and the candidate, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was one of the things that I had the biggest problem with Doden last time during the last debate. He dodged like every single question. He would not answer a question directly. He was even asked to rate Governor Holcomb's performance, and I talked about that before. He refused to do it. He would not say. Shawn says the Senate is now voting on the Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan aid. Oh, goody! I'm sure they'll pass it. All we are is a slush fund, a money laundering operation for other countries around the world. It's insane. I can't even articulate the rage that I feel when I see these people spending our tax dollars on foreign countries while they're looking to criminalize homelessness. And like Shannon says, Jamie is the only candidate that came close to direct answers. And I agree. If I thought she could win, I'd be a lot more excited about her. The only real issue that I had with her in this debate was the whole illegal and, giving them an opportunity to become citizens on no, they broke the law coming here, go back, and then come here legally, like many, many, many people have done throughout the years. It's ridiculous that we even need to have that discussion, because we are consistently paying higher prices, and we have people who are being killed across the country by people who shouldn't even be here. This is not, it's not something I'm willing to budge on. Doden last time refused to answer any questions, didn't even come close. It was talking point after talking point. And then when asked to rate Holcomb, his answer was, I'd rather look to the future. I don't rate past leaders. Okay. No one else had a problem with it. Everyone else was perfectly fine with it. As a matter of fact, and that was actually one of the things that caused Suzanne Crouch to kind of go up, in my opinion, was the fact that she didn't mind calling out Holcomb. She said economically, she rated him an A, but for coronavirus handling, she rated him a C. And she's been serving with him for 8 years now, pretty much. They know each other quite well. So I had to give her props for that. It would have been very easy for her to not take a stand on that and not have a degree of autonomy there. So on the other hand, I think one of the big holdbacks for her is her proximity to Holcomb. So I think it was a wise choice to put some distance there. And you notice how she has consistently now said no masks or mandates when I'm governor. So she is taking the cue that she does need to distance herself. That said, I think Jamie Reitenour was the best on stage. For one, I was consistently impressed with her ability to challenge the moderator on these absolute ridiculous questions. None of this abortion crap matters. It's settled. It's done. The governor has no effect on that. The legislature ruled on it. Supreme Court upheld it. It's done. Shannon says, why in this day can we not, as conservative, figure out abortion? Sorry, as conservatives, figure out abortion. Why can we not back away from the hard-toed line and even consider a compromise? This is the issue that will consistently drag the conservatives down. Side note, I have a Sue Crouch sign for the yard, may trade it for a Jamie sign. Yeah, and that's a good question. I will say, I do think that Jamie actually handled the abortion question the best. She freely volunteered that, number one, this is a conversation we don't even need to really be having. It's funny how this guy feels the need to continuously hammer the conservative justices, and they were all appointed by Republicans. What do you think? Do you agree? It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. The governor actually has the least power of most states. I'm not sure of any state, but is one of the least powerful governors. It only takes a simple majority of the House to override a governor's veto here in the state of Indiana. It does not require a 2/3 or 3/4 majority, as in some states. I actually had an interview with Austin Bonta, current mayor of Portage, where he and I had a great discussion about the governor and how weak they are compared to other states. At the same time, Suzanne Crouch made a good point, which is the lieutenant governor here actually is one of the hardest working, has the most responsibilities. Lieutenant governor in Indiana does a lot. But that's a great point, Shannon. Why can we not seem to be able to figure out a compromise, to seem to be able to say, look, this is a decision that is between you and your healthcare provider. I think our resources could be better used than chasing down people who had to make the difficult decision about what to do with their child, with an unwanted pregnancy. I think that our resources could be better spent than attempting to prosecute people. I don't see how that now. Doctors, that might be something else. But as far as people, I just don't know that that's the answer. Shannon says, my morals and convictions are hard on it, but I understand the same goes for the other side. Exactly. And I think in Indiana, for one, it's settled, right? It's a done deal. But unfortunately, I think that we have given about as much as we're going to on that issue. There are exceptions there for the life of the mother. There are exceptions for rape and incest. There are exceptions there. The issue is it's a political hand grenade. You throw that into a discussion in order to harden the eyes of anyone who is considering voting conservative. Oh, look, they're against this. It's really, again, irrelevant. It's done. I think that was just a way to, I don't know. I don't know. This guy, I was shocked at the moderator and what he must have been thinking. At first, I liked his no nonsense attitude, but unfortunately, what was the point of the whole election thing? And Jamie was the only one that had the courage to say what we all know, that there were some irregularities there that have not been addressed. There were irregularities in 2020 that voters all across this great state know something ain't right. Something ain't right. And to simply give a sweeping question like that, they expect you to, raise your hand. What? No, absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that this helps you to make an informed decision about who you want for the next governor of Indiana. I know it does for me. I have a long talk to have with my wife, who up to this point has been consistently pro Suzanne Crouch. I think there were some good answers that Suzanne Crouch gave, but overall, I don't think she won that. I don't think she won that debate. Curtis Hill actually had a pretty strong showing there at the end. At the beginning, I was like, again, Doden and Chambers, absolutely not for this household, neither of them. But let's pray. That's all we can do. Let's pray. I am not a huge fan of either of those two. And I'm still kind of about Braun. I don't know, man. It's just, even though he has the Trump endorsement, even though he allegedly, Main Street, and I know people who know him and have been around him and say he seems to be good people. Basically, everyone that worked on his campaign when he ran for Senate has very positive things to say about the guy. And he's also, voting record wise, extremely, extremely consistent with conservatives. So I hope you'll tune in tomorrow morning. My buddy Jim, we're doing Dion's Daily Dose Presents Coffee Break, 8 a.m. Tomorrow we're going to be tackling 3%ers. What is it? What does it mean? He is a member of a motorcycle club, and they are 3%ers. And what does that mean? Are they dangerous? We're going to get into it. We have some interesting numbers that I think you guys will find fascinating. And then we have some more interviews coming up. We have Al Stevens is going to be here on Thursday. Tomorrow morning we have the coffee break, and then tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. we have a interview with Spencer England tomorrow. He's running for State Senate District 8. And then Friday we have Dan Barony. Thursday we have Al Stevens. Al Stevens is the Republican Party chair for the county of LaPorte. Dan Barony is running for LaPorte County Treasurer. And then Dan Barony, I think, is going to wrap up the candidate interviews, and we're going to move on to other stuff. We have some fascinating things coming up. Ghost hunters, father-daughter weightlifting teams. It's awesome. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you follow us on the various social medias. Everything is at Dion's Daily Dose, so it's super simple. Talk to you again very, very soon. Thank you very much for spending your time with me. God bless you. God bless Indiana. And God bless the United States of America. Thank you. Have a great day.
If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose. This has been Dion's Daily Dose, hosted by Dion Bergeron. Executive producers, Sean Holgram and Michael Beebe. Copyright 2024. Dion's Daily Dose, all rights reserved.